Hey BookTube, it's Jackie. How's it going? If you're new to me, it's the first time you're seeing my face, hello, what's up? My name's Jackie. I sit on my floor and I talk about books. So that's why you're here, because that's what's going to be happening today. If you're not new to me, thank you for always tuning in and the continued support. I really do appreciate it. So today for you, I have my August wrap up. Yes, it's that time again of the month where I get to review everything that I read and be reminded of everything that I didn't read. Good times. So we've got a lot to talk about today. A lot. So without further ado, grab yourself a drink, have yourself a seat, and let's get talking some books. Okay, so let's just get the nitty gritties out of the way. These are the books I did not complete on my August TBR, which I will link that video down below. I did not complete Demon Slayer by Go Trick and Felix. It's the third installment in the first omnibus. I did not complete Lord of the Rings. This was my Buzzword Challenge book of the month. I'm doing really great with this challenge. Really, really great. Just to let y'all know. And I did not complete Amara Ray's Lifeblood. Little bummed about this one. This is the one I'm probably most bummed about. So hopefully you will see this very, very soon on another TBR. But here's what I did complete. I told you there was a lot. Yeah, there's a lot. So as you can see, they are all timestamped. So if there's a book here that you're just like, I don't really care about, you can skip it. Or if there's a book that you're super, super excited about, you can jump right to it. I hope you will stick with me through all of these, but if you don't, I completely understand. However, I do go into a full in-depth review of every single one of these books in my weekly wrap-ups, and I will link that playlist in the corner, whichever corner it is, and in the down box below. So you can go find more full in-depth reviews of each one of these books, all 14 of them. So, since we got quite a bit to talk about, let's get started. Here are my stats for the month of August. I completed a total of 14 books, 8 physical, 6 audio. My page count was 3,575 pages. My listening time was a total of 54 hours and 24 minutes, and my average rating of all 14 books was a 3.25, which was really surprising. I thought it would be higher, but it wasn't. And I did the math twice. So, yeah. I was a little shocked by that. I was like, okay. But, side note, August now holds the ranking of the most books I completed in a month. Yay! Go me! All right. So, as always, my notes are over here, and I'm going to be referencing them to talk about the books. Now, the first 4 books I am going to be talking about, I did participate in the Romance Takeover Readathon, and that's where I read the first 4 books of the month, because that was a whole week-long readathon in the very beginning of August. And I will specifically link that video down below, so you can go directly to that one if you'd like. It is also in the weekly wrap-up playlist as well. So, the first book I have to talk about is this guy. This is Sierra Simone's Priest, which I gave a 4.75 stars to. This book was fantastic. This was the best way to start this month. I freaking love this. This was amazing. Although I only give 4.75 stars, and we'll get to a reason why here in a second. This is the first installment in a trilogy. It is a priest romance with suicide off-page trigger warnings, and it also has graphic language in regards to the degradation kink. If you are not familiar with that, a degradation kink is the consensual practice of using derogatory names and phrases such as bitch, whore, idiot, worthless, descriptive words like that, or other degrading nouns to humiliate and degrade your partner during sex, and this is all consensual. And there is also sexual practices in public and religious spaces. Brief synopsis of this book. This follows Father Tyler Bell and Poppy Danforth. Still not a fan of the heroine's name. Even after a month, still not a fan. Poppy is looking for something, and she believes the church can help her find it. Seems like she's lost. She's trying to figure out herself, and she goes to church, and she encounters Father Tyler Bell, who, for all intents and purposes, this book is literally a test of his celibacy vow. That is what this book is, and boy, is he freaking tested. So much. This book hit a 5 on the chili pepper scale for me because the sex scenes were so on point. They were intense. They definitely lent to the success of this book for me. Also, a successful point to this book was I listened to this on audio, and it is primarily from the male's perspective. So I just devoured that. I do tend to really enjoy romance books that are from the male's perspective. I don't really know why, but I just seem to like them a lot more. Maybe it's because it probably could be the fact that I'm not a dude And so it's nice to see what a dude would think, I guess. I don't know. I'm not going to try to figure it out. I just know what I like. But yes, I really enjoy the fact this whole book was primarily from his perspective. I mean, maybe 5% of it is from Poppy's. Just a heads up. Like, when I say all of it, I'm meaning like almost all of it is. Sierra Simone does amazing things with this book. She creates imagery and feelings during these intimate scenes that are joined with sexual practices and religious practices that are just, they are insane how good they are. They were fantastic. I loved every single second of them. There are so many scenes from this book that live rent-free in my head, but one specific scene, she takes the actual verbiage that a Roman Catholic priest uses during the consecration of the bread and the wine into the body and blood of Christ and uses it over a naked woman splayed out on an altar with a crucifix behind her while she's tied down the altar. And it is the most surreal, erotic, scary, intense, tingle-worthy fucking scene I think I've ever read in my entire life. It was amazing. I had to stop. I had to breathe. It was just... I needed a minute. Or 5. Yeah. I'm not kidding. It was so intense. Sierra Simone is one of the ballsiest authors I have read to date right now because she did that. I am Roman Catholic. I was raised Roman Catholic. I went to Roman Catholic high school. My daughter goes to Catholic high school. The church is very much in my face. So to have these words that I have heard my entire life being said for a different reason, all of these implementation, all these practices, all these ceremonies being used for different reasons, and to not be scared about it, but to rather be thought-provoked. I thought about this and thinking, why? This makes so much sense to use it this way. The way she did it was just, oh my God, it was amazing. She gave all of these things I've grown up having these specific set values to. She gave them different purposes and it made sense and it worked and it just, blah. It just was like, there's a line in the book that says baptism by kiss rather than water. That's exactly what this book is. Exactly. And it was exquisite. It was perfect. I adored this so much. There are other things that she did that worked really well in this book other than that, but that's one of the skill sets that she just showed off and through the stars she used it. It was great. She does bring the whole Madonna whore complex straight to the forefront with the character of Poppy, which I really enjoy because it's something that women have to deal with on a daily basis. And so I love to see that in books, and how she utilized it and how she walked that fine line. She had Father Tyler Bell walk that line so perfectly that, oh, I wanted him at that moment. I did. I did so bad. It was great. However, there were some things about this book that I didn't like, but I want to preface this one. This is strictly because of me. I don't believe this is going to be a very popular opinion, but I do not believe this book needed the HEA that it had. I feel like Father Tyler Bell went through this journey for all intents and purposes, he went through the desert and he came out stronger for it. So the ending that he got, I felt like he was backtracking. I felt like he deserved a better ending, and that's why I didn't give it a 5-star. But everything else, this book was on point. 5 chili peppers. Oh, so good. If you just go read this one, it's fantastic. So fucking good. The next book I completed was Temptation by Ivy Smoak. This is the first installment in the Hunted series. And again, I read this for the Romance Takeover Readathon. It is a teacher-student romance with an age gap. This follows Penny Taylor, who's a 19-year-old sophomore in Professor Hunter's communication class, and Professor Hunter, who is a 27-year-old, brilliant, wealthy college professor. They have a chance encounter in a coffee shop, and then this romance just starts to stumble forward from that after he learns that she is in his communications class. And this is where Ivy Smoak really excelled for me. She utilized the classroom setting to help perpetuate this relationship. All of the major arguments, major discussions points, they weren't discussed in the classroom, but they were brought to the forefront that a conversation needed to happen through the classroom assignments. And I really, really enjoyed that she took the teacher-student relationship and she just didn't make the school setting just where they met. She actually made it a major part or character in the story. And I thought that was really, really fantastic. I definitely kudos to that one. This only received a 3 chili peppers on the spice scale. There were various locations and various positions, all which I could understand without having to look them up. Really a big fan when I don't have to look up positions. Really, I don't know if that bothers you guys, but it bothers me when the detail doesn't really quite explain where her legs or arms are at, and I did not have to look up any of the positions in this book, so I was great. I love that. And there was a lot of graphic language, but it was more predominantly a professor to teacher dominant language. So it wasn't like dom. It was more just like, I'm your teacher. You need to listen to me. Like it's a different version of dominant language. And one other thing that really worked in this book that I wanted to bring to the forefront is because there is an age gap. I find during age gaps, they tend to make the person who has who is younger, they seem to be more mature for that age range. And Penny, who is 19, is a standard 19-year-old girl. She makes 19-year-old stupid decisions. And I like that. I like the fact that Ivy Smoak wrote her to be a typical 19-year-old girl because it lent to the drama of the story. It lent to some of the issues that we have in this story because this is not an HEA. There's a cliffhanger at the end of this and it does continue into the next installment, which I do plan on continuing with this series because I would like to know what happens. And my only issue with this book was I felt Hunter was a little too perfect, but with that cliffhanger at the end, I was like, maybe in the next installment he won't. But in this installment, he just felt a little too perfect. It felt like there was nothing wrong. There was nothing gone wrong in his life. You know, so it just, hopefully the next installments, I'll see a little bit more grit on him. But yes, again, I gave this 3 stars. The next book I completed for the Romance Takeover Readathon, and this also met my requirement for the Smut Club, which I am participating in, which is hosted by Cheyenne over at That Tall Book Girl and McKay at Over Hey It's McKay. I'll link their channels down below. And the August installment was this book, Lilith Vincent's The Pageant. I gave this a 2-star. Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of this book. It is the first installment in the Pageant duology, and the second installment actually just came out. And I read this on my Kindle. This was my maiden voyage in my Kindle, which I did really enjoy that experience with. We show things such as somnophilia in this, murder, torture, BDSM practices, and edge play with an emphasis on gunplay. If you're not familiar with edge play is a subjective term for activity, sexual or mentally manipulative, that may challenge the conventional safe, sane, and consensual SSC scheme. It may involve consequences of potential short or long-term harm or death exemplified in such activities such as breath play, erotic asphyxiation, fire, knife, fear, temperature, wax play. All of those fall under the scope of edge play, and this book focuses on gunplay, which is the sexual, it is the practice of including a real firearm or simulated firearm in the scene. Most oftentimes it's not loaded, but there are a few gun players that will use loaded weapons during their sexual scenes. So there's a lot of kinks in this book. So for that, I gave this a 3.75 chili peppers because this was, yeah, there was some intense, there was some intense scenes. The gunplay scene specifically for one, that thing was, okay, holy shit. That scene actually probably saved this book for me. We're just going to say they played Russian roulette with a gun and it wasn't her head they were pointing the gun at. I'm going to leave it at that. So, yeah. Now, quick summary about this book. We have Lilia, who is a model that's been kidnapped to participate in a high-stakes pageant to find the new wife of the local Bratva Mafia Pecan. This is Mafia romance as well, but it is a point in the book. It's not a major player in the book, but it's not a minor aspect of the book either. But I would consider this a mafia romance as well. We have 3 men, so this does fall under the scope of the Why Choose movement, and the Why Choose genre of books, or reverse harem, whichever you want to call it. And we have Elia, who is a past lover of Lilia's. We have Constantine and Creel. Constantine is the head guy in charge that we're trying to find the wife for. Creel is your enforcer, and he's just basically a sadistic ass. And Eli is the spurned lover who wants revenge because he believed Lilia actually turned rat on his previous boss, who was Lilia's ex-husband in an arranged marriage. So there's a lot of pieces swirling around in this. And then on top of that, you have this pageant with 16 other girls, and they are put through the ringer of pageant for their life, essentially. What worked about this book was the pageant concept. I thought that was great. I was really excited to figure out how they were going to do this and what they were going to do. And Lilia and Elia's backstory. Thought it was great. The backstory was fantastic. However, as a backstory, it was great. What didn't work was trying to force that backstory back into the forefront, that there is still this romance between these two. That was not really appreciative. I thought that was kind of annoying, actually. And as much as I love the pageant concept, the scenes that we actually see in the pageant, there was no cohesion between them because all the girls got different challenges. And the main scenes we saw, the pageant, was just Lilia. We didn't really experience a lot of the pageant scenes with the other contestants. So I felt this book was trying to just do too much, and it just didn't execute it well. It all had really good points and blocks. It just wasn't executed the way that I felt it should have been. So it only got a 2.75 for me. I do, however, I'd like to continue with it. On further retrospect, I was all for trying to continue with it in the beginning, but now I'm kind of like, maybe just not anytime soon, I don't think. Because the twist ending, the cliffhanger ending, that was really, really good. I enjoyed that, and it kind of saved the book a little bit for me. But I don't think I'm gonna be jumping to go pick it up anytime soon. So, yep. The 4th and final book that I read for the Romance Takeover Readathon was Priceless by Jane Henry. This is the first installment in the Ruthless Doms series, and it features BDSM romance, sex trafficking, there's a master-slave component, and a hero-damsel trope. I picked this book up because I loved the Wicked Dom series by Jane Henry, which I read for another readathon hosted by Jen over at the Book Refuge, so I just thought, like, I have to do it. I did not love this as much as I loved Wicked Doms. I only gave this 3 stars. This follows Nikolai and Marissa, who we actually meet at the end of Brotsva's Captive, which is the final installment of the Wicked Dom series. Nikolai is Marissa's bodyguard and has been pining for her for years, and Marissa is a freshly graduated from high school and has harbored feelings for her vigilante bodyguard for years. There is an age gap in it, but it's not a very large age gap, so I didn't really want to reference that, but there is kind of a maturity level age gap because he has been guarding her since she was very little. So, not very little, but since she was, you know, puberty. So there is an age gap, but in the grand scope of things, it wasn't a major component to the story, to be perfectly honest. It was more that he was her bodyguard for years. That was the major component that they emphasized in the book. Nikolai learns that Marissa's father has gone into some debt, and so decides to sell his one and only daughter into sex trafficking to help pay for that debt. And Nikolai finds out and takes her and flees. They are discovered, Marissa's abducted and taken, and Nikolai is left for dead. But however, he does not die. But he comes back, and then our story really kicks off from there, him trying to find her, chase her down, and very reminiscent of the movie Taken, just a heads up. It was very reminiscent of it, but not as action-packed. I only gave this book 2 on the chili pepper scale, because for it having sex trafficking and master slave component and, you know, a hero damsel trope and BDSM, it was pretty vanilla. Like it was. The dominant language was fantastic. The imagery of dominance and submission in a non-sexualized way was definitely brought to the forefront in this book. There wasn't a lot of dominance in the sexual scenarios. There was actually like only one, but you saw more of it in the non-sexualized way of the kneeling, the keeping the eyes down, the calls, the trigger, the physical talk between a dom and their sub. You saw more of that in this book, which was interesting. It's something it kind of gets overlooked in a lot of BDSM books, but this one, it was what was actually more focused on. But other than that, the sex scenes were pretty vanilla compared to like Wicked Doms. So that was a little depressing on that one. What worked in this? The original concept, I liked the concept of him going back trying to find her, and I really enjoyed that. However, what didn't work is it wrapped up too nicely for me, and the issues that were touched on, this sex trafficking, Marissa's a virgin. So we also have a first time in this book as well. But because she was a virgin, she was kept longer in training because she was going up for a virgin auction because they were worth more. And you don't ever see that training. You only hear about it. And for as mentally fucked up as she was when Nikolai gets her, like, she can't even remember her own damn name, okay? She can't remember it. I think this book would have been stronger had you got to see some of that. I know it sounds really twisted, but I feel like for the state that they put Marissa in when we come back to seeing Marissa, you needed to see what she went through, not just be told about it. You need to physically see it. And I think it would have been stronger had we got to experience that. So I wasn't the happiest with this, but I'm still going to continue with the series because I did enjoy it. It's 3 stars. So that completed all the books I read for the Romance Takeover Readathon, and everything else was for my August month. So let's dive right in. So the next book I completed was actually a carryover from July, and that was Tall, Dark, and Lonely by R.L. Mathewson, and it looks like this. And this was 3 stars. It was an audiobook, but done by Stella Bloom, which I kind of wish it would have had a dual narration, because the whole thing was by the females, by a female voice, so she was voicing the men, and I think this book would have benefited from the male perspective and the female perspective a lot more. But that's not the way it was done. And we do show blood play in this. So that's the major trigger warning, because this is what I consider a paranormal romance. We follow Ephraim and Madison. Ephraim is a vampiric-like creature who lives in a boarding house, and Madison is the granddaughter of the boarding house owner, and she is consequently a virgin as well. So we have another first-time scene as well in this book. Ephraim becomes obsessed with her scent and taste because he is not a vampire. He's what we call a pite. And a pite is a child born of a vampire and a human. So there's a very interesting vampiric world created in this book, and I really thought that saved this book a lot for me. I loved the world that was created, this Pite and then Sentinel. That is actually a series title, a Pite and Sentinel series. And it's the first installment. I believe there's like 6 or 7 books in this series entirety, and we don't learn a lot about the Sentinels. I feel like we'll learn more about them in the next installments, but the world that was created in this definitely intrigued me enough to want to continue with this series. Once a relationship starts to begin with Ephraim and Madison, we get just this series of hurdles, and some of them are a little far-fetched. I'm not going to lie. Some of them are a little far-fetched, but this is where some of the stuff didn't work for me, because Ephraim was able to override all these. Ephraim is just... he's just too fucking perfect. And his only problem is that he can't stay away from Madison. Like, that's the only issue this guy really has. Because he's super rich, super smart, he's smarter than everybody, and, you know, let's just throw money at it, because that's kind of what he does throughout the book. So that didn't really work for me, but the banter between Madison and Ephraim really worked really, really well. I thought that saved this book a lot for me. And this found family unit that was created in this was excellent. This was one of the highlights for me, was this family concept between Madison and Ephraim that was developed by the end of the book. And it was great. I did really enjoy this, despite, you know, Ephraim being perfect and how he was able to save the day on everything without much effort at all. Not much struggle, except when it came to Madison. he just couldn't keep his hands off of her, which, hey, I'm not a problem with that. However, I wish the sex scenes were a little bit more spicier, because I only give this 2 chili peppers. I've read a lot of vampire books, and it's pretty vanilla for vampires. I mean, pretty vanilla. But we do have blood play in it because they do transfer blood, and that goes with the world building. Some of the things that we've learned, they are different than the stereotypical vampiric elements that we've grown accustomed to. So I really enjoyed that aspect of this book, and it's one of the reasons why I want to continue with the series, is the world that was created, that R.L. Mathewson created in this world. So 3 stars, definitely something I want to continue with. Had a good time with it. But I feel like I would like to read the physical copies because I wasn't a big fan of the audiobook. So the next book I completed was also a carryover from July, and that is Diana Gaboldon's Dragonfly and Amber, which, of course, this is 5 stars. This is the second installment to the Outlander series. It's historical fiction with fantasy thrown in, and this is definitely... I can't go into too much in this book because you have to read Outlander to really understand this book, but this is more of not so much the romance between Jamie and Claire Fraser. It is more the political machinations, building up the world that they are in, because Claire has fallen back into time to find Jamie by accident, and they start to formulate this romance, which is what you get in Outlander. And in this one, you're getting more of society, the time frame, the status, all the elements that would affect a relationship at this point in time. And that's what this book really is. It's a lot of moving pieces in this book, a lot of setup for the big moment. And then, of course, this has, you know, a gut-wrenching ending because it's Diana Gaboldon, so let's just rip my guts out. It's fine. But I love this series. I cannot speak highly enough of this series. The series is fantastic. Every single book gets better and better and better and better. And Jamie is just the king of men. He's perfect. Claire is perfect for him. I have no gripes. I have no complaints. There's nothing wrong with these books for me. Absolutely nothing. Just, if you're looking for a sign to go read Outlander, go fucking read this book. So go read Outlander so you can read this one. Go read this series. It's amazing. And that's all I can really say about this, is that it's fucking Jamie Fraser. Like, how? Just read it. Read it! All right. The next book yeah, we're at book 7 now. The next book I completed was Property of a Mountain Man by Gemma Weir, and it looks like this. And this is 3 stars. This was also an audiobook done by Cecily Foster and Drew Adams. First experience for both of these narrators, and they were awesome. Loved it. Drew Adams got that nice little gravel, and it's very, very nice. It's very nice. Just saying. This is the first installment of the Montana Mountain Man series, and it is an age gap of 22 years. There is very extreme dominance and a first time in this as well. So we follow Beau and Bonnie. Bonnie works in a coffee shop that Beau frequents, and he comes in every morning and every evening to be there when she's opening and be there when she's closing, so she's not alone. Bonnie's had a crush on Beau since she was 13. And Bonnie one day gets hit on by an out-of-towner, and this just snaps something in Beau. He finally realized something clicks, and he's like, no, this isn't happening. And he needs to make her see that he owns her. And she needs to understand that you're mine, I don't share, and you're it for me. And that's where our story really kicks off. What worked in this was the audiobook. I think the audio was great for this. And the dirty talk in this was, it was perfect. I had zero problem with the dirty talk in this book because, I mean, it was right out there, but Beau was not ashamed of anything. It was great. The sex scenes were great in this book. They were super steamy, super spicy. And I loved Beau's character. I personally loved Beau's character, the super possessiveness that he never hit it. I mean, from day one, as soon as the realization clicks in his head that Bonnie's his and he wants her, it is no holds barred. He is not backing down. He's like, he says it multiple times. I'm an asshole. I don't share. You're mine. Deal with it. And I loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. what didn't work, and these didn't, and I say what didn't work because I believe these are what didn't work, what wouldn't work for other people. I had zero issues with any of these, but I believe that these are kind of things you might want to know about if you're thinking about picking up these books. Beau is what we call an alpha hole. He's a straight ass about it. He super possessive. There's no backing down, and he is 0 to 100. It is nothing, not speaking to her, to I'm going to come in the coffee shop, throw you over my shoulder, take you in the back, fuck you, and then drop you back off just because you smiled at somebody else. Yeah, 0 to 100. Yes. Super, super, super possessive, straight alpha hole. And there is this component with manipulation with sex that it was comical because it was mentioned in the book, but it was also kind of irritating that Beau would try to oversex Bonnie to try to change her mind into certain scenarios and things. And although it never works, it was just kind of like, don't cheapen orgasms like that. Just don't do that. That's just rude. That's rude. Don't do that. So, yeah. I gave this a 3 chili peppers on the spice scale. Graphic language, multiple locations, super possessive, and we have a first time scene. So lots of goodies in this one. Lots of goodies. The next book I completed was Lore Olympus Volume 1 by Rachel Smythe, and I gave this 3 stars. It is a bind up of a very popular webtoon. It's a Hades and Persephone's retelling, and this is episodes 1 through 25. We get introduced to a lot of the characters in this. Hades puts his foot in his mouth, so Aphrodite plants Persephone in his car thinking that she's going to do something stupid. I didn't have the best time with this. I mean, I gave it a 3 star because it's literally the introduction. There's not a lot you can really talk about this because we're just really getting introduced to the characters and some of the plot points into it. But I feel like Aphrodite, being as like bitchy as she is, she would have done something a lot cooler than just put her in Hades' car so Hades would find her and possibly see her do something stupid when she woke up. Like, that was her big scheme? Really? I'm also not the biggest fan of graphic novels. It's just not a medium that I work well within, but I do plan on continuing with it because, again, this is literally the intro. And I already have volume 2, so I'll probably continue with it, but from what I did read of it, from what I did glean from it, I did really enjoy it. I do love Hades and Persephone, so there's that going for it. The next book I read was Cole by Tijan, and it looks like this. I gave this a 2.75 star. This was a standalone. When I discovered this, it says it's a standalone, but it references other characters from previous books, and we're going to get to that, why I'm saying that. It is a mafia romance, and it was an audiobook by Laura Darrell and Stephen Dexter. We follow Addison and Cole. Addison is a widow haunted by the memory of her husband, and she uses her inheritance to move into this really hoity-toity, really nice apartment complex, and extremely exclusive. I mean, there's only 7 residents in this entire apartment complex, and it's $25,000 a month. A month. I just want to stress that. That floored me. When I read this book, I was like, what? Okay. But there's just something off about this place. There's this really weird level of secrecy, and there's a lot of security. So it immediately starts intriguing you about this apartment complex, like something's going on about this, and we also have no idea who owns it. The residents don't even know who owns it. Yeah. But through many reveals in this book, we start learning some of the secrets, and the story starts to unfold. What worked in this book, I found that the revelations. Okay, for all intents and purposes, I wasn't really engaged in this story at all. The audiobook really, the narrator really wasn't engaging to me, so I wasn't really engrossed in it. It was just kind of playing in the back of my head. But by the end of the book, all these revelations start appearing, and all these points from the earlier parts of the book that I didn't realize I was remembering started coming in, and I'm like, what? And then we start seeing all these like clicks, and I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Whoa. So this is my first experience with Tijan, so I was kind of shocked by that, and taken aback and thoroughly impressed with that. I did really enjoy that because by the end of the book, I was on the edge of my seat wanting to know what the fucking happened. But in the beginning of the book, I didn't give a shit. And by the end, I did. So yes, that was awesome. Which I think lent to the idea, because this is a mafia romance. In the mafia, you wouldn't learn a lot of stuff. There's a lot of secrecy. So this book was being told as I feel like how real mafia would be. Very secretive. You don't get a lot of things, but you get little bits and pieces that seem to just stick with you for no reason because they're just oddball elements. And then when things reveal, it all clicks into place. So I feel like the mafia secrecy was how Tijan was writing this book. And I thought that was great. I really did enjoy that that idea. And then there was the I choose you moment in the book, which was just personal to me because I actually said, both my husband and I said that to each other in our wedding vows. And so to have the hero and the heroine actually vocalize, I choose you, I choose everything that goes with you, good and bad, I thought it was really touching because I enjoyed that aspect. What didn't work, I already kind of emphasized the audiobook didn't really work for me. And it was because of the narrator. I think if they had a different narrator, the audiobook would have been great. This narrator sounded way, way too young. She sounded like a 12-year-old girl. And it was just way too young. And the whole book, minus 2 chapters, were from her perspective. I got the male perspective twice. I was not cool with that. I did not enjoy that. Didn't like it. So that definitely did not work for me at all. The sex scenes, I gave a 2 on the chili pepper scale. They were pretty standard. There was a little bit of graphic language, but for the most part, it was pretty much just straightforward. Nothing really super kinky, just very nice and intimate. So those scenes were really, really nice. I enjoyed those a lot. The next book I read was my Red Witch and Bitchin' Book Club, and that is Halfway to the Grave by Jeaniene Frost, and I gave this 3 stars. This is the first installment to what series is this? The Night Huntress series. Sorry, I forgot. I didn't write it down. It is a paranormal romance. It shows blood play. There's assault off page, and there's a cliffhanger because this is a multi-book series. We follow Kat, Crawford, and Bones. Kat is half vampire, and she's hunting vampires to get rid of them. And she comes across Bones, and Bones is an ancient master vampire who is doing the same thing, hunting vampires and killing them. But they encounter each other, and he thinks one of the vampires he's hunting has hired her to kill him. She's just trying to kill him, and they meet, and chaos but awesomeness ensues. This was really, really cool. When Bones meets up with Kat, he discovers her secret of being a half vampire, and he comes up with this concept that we're going to work together. And then we have what I would call a training montage, which leads to this romance. We get a lot of quick fire segments of her training and being with him, and just banter between them that leads to this romance. And it was really, really well done. I enjoyed it. What worked in this was Kat's character. She is badass through the entire book. Like, from page 1 to the last page, she doesn't really waver. And as the training montage goes, she becomes even more of a badass. She doesn't revert back to, she doesn't start to fall on Bones. She just becomes better. And I really enjoy that she was through the entirety of the book like that. I like the vampiric world that was created in this book. I really enjoyed that element. Definitely something I want to delve more into. The banter between Bones and Kat was fantastic. And then, of course, the cliffhanger at the end of this installment was just like, now I gotta go read the next one. Thanks for hooking me. Thanks. Appreciate it. What I found didn't work in this book was I am a huge fan of Laurel K. Hamilton's The Anita Blake Vampire Hunter series, and I saw way too many similarities in this book to that series for me. If you have never read the Anita Blake Vampire Hunter series, I think this thing would be a hit for most people, but because I was a diehard fan of that series, I just saw way too many references to it, and so I felt like that kind of cheapened it for me. It wasn't a direct ripoff, but it wasn't really a homage either. Specifically, Bones's description and Kat's description. I just felt they were very similar. And yeah, so that bothered me, but it was more of a personal thing for me. And we never really find out why Bones hates the main villain as much as he does. It's never really brought to the forefront. We just know that he hates him. We find out what he is doing, but we don't understand to Bones why that bothers him so much. We just know that he does have some moral fiber, but being as old as he is, I would like to know more of his backstory, which I feel like we're probably going to get in future installments. So I gave this a 2 on the spice scale because the first intimate scene was super sweet and strong. No sex on that very first intimate scene, but it was really good. I enjoyed that a lot. And when we did get to the first, P in the V scene, it was graphic, but it wasn't so in your face that it was distasteful. It was very suitable for this book. But again, I've read the Laurel K. Hamilton series, and even that scene was very reminiscent to the very first major scene in that series. So I had that going. So that was why my ratings are the way that they are. But I feel like if you've not read the Anita Blake series, this thing would be a hit. It'd be a lot stronger for most people. The next book I completed was A Touch of Malice by Scarlett St. Clair. This was 5 stars. I'm not shocked by this at all, and nobody else should be either. I just adore this series. This is a Hades and Persephone series retelling, and this is the 3rd installment to the Touch of Darkness series, which is Hades Persephone from Persephone's perspective. And Hades' perspective of this book will be coming out next year, I believe in January or February. We see Persephone be a fucking badass. I had 0 issue with Persephone in this book. She is rocking it. Hades is rocking it. The sex scenes in this book are on point. I believe there's probably more sex in this installment than any of them. This was great. This was fantastic. Loved it. Give me more. I do not want to wait to, I don't want to wait till September of next year when the 4th installment of this series comes in. However, the ending of this book left me gut-wrenched, and the fact that I have to read Gods of Chaos in January, February, which is Hades' perspective of this book, I have to relive all the shit that happened in this book again. Oh, God. I'm going to need a lot of alcohol or a whole day of sleeping to get over that because, damn. So much stuff happened in this book. So many moving pieces. So many things. Battle lines are drawn. Oh. There were so many good moments, but there were so many what the fuck moments at the same time in this book. It was fantastic. But I actually got to meet Scarlett St. Clair in August, which was really cool. I went to a book signing of hers, and I got my copy of Touch of Darkness autographed, and I will link that vlog down below as well, so you guys can check that out. The next book I completed was Play for Keeps by Kendall Ryan. It looks like this. I gave this book a 3-star. It is the 1st installment of the Hot Jock series, and I think there's about 6 of those. It was an audiobook done by Jason Clark and Virginia Rose. Had 0 issue with them. They were fantastic. I loved Jason Clark's voice. It was amazing. This is a sports romance with the sport of hockey being the main sport. It shows a miscommunication trope, but it's really not a miscommunication trope. It's more of just lack of talking. Like, they're just not talking to each other. So I don't really want to call that miscommunication, because miscommunication to me says that they are not understanding what each other is saying. These two just aren't fucking talking, okay? There's not. But we do have a friends to lovers trope in this as well, along with a first-time experience. We follow Elise and Justin. Elise is the little sister of Owen, who is Justin's best friend and teammate. Justin has grown up with Owen and Elise, so there's also this kind of brother, little sister figure thing in there, but it's briefly mentioned, but then it's overlooked really, really quickly. Justin and Owen being on the same team, Owen has kind of made this overarching statement that my sister's off limits. To my friends, to my teammates, she's off limits. I don't want to deal with it. But after one drunken night, Justin and Elise break the cardinal rule, and Justin kisses Elise, which leads to their eventual hookup. And the next morning, Justin doesn't even acknowledge that it happens. And Elise lets him play along, which is really difficult for Elise to do because it was her first time. So not only does she suffer from the embarrassment that she just slept with her brother's best friend, it was her first time. She gave it up when she was drunk in kind of like a flop house after a party. He doesn't even act like he remembers it. They just fell into bed naked. Yeah. That's the start of our very secretive romance in this book. I felt what worked in this book, the humor that's peppered in within some of these intense secretive scenes, because this romance is completely secretive. So the humor that Kendall Ryan uses under that umbrella of keeping a secret, the humor is very, very on point. I thought it was great. It was fun. What doesn't work in this book is there's multiple coitus interruptuses because it is secret. So as soon as like they're into it, a door would knock or a phone call would ring. But I'm not talking like they just started. I'm talking like we're full on in, we're engaged, we're about to do this, and the fucking phone rings. Who answers their phone during sex? Seriously? Who does that? That's just rude. Okay? But I get it because the whole secrecy thing. But it pissed me off because there's multiple of these. Multiple. This lack of communication, it started to get really old in the beginning, but then eventually communication does happen, but then we have lack of communication again at the end. So it's this constant revolving door of we're going to talk, we're not going to talk, we're going to talk, we're not going to talk. And that got kind of irritating after a while. And then Justin's self-fulfilling prophecy that anything he touches turns to shit, except on the ice. He says this perpetually many times, that he is a fuck up and he can't do anything right. He's going to hurt her. And eventually, you know, self-fulfilling prophecy happens. So when the big moment happened, it just kind of irritated me because he's like, you talked yourself into this. There was absolutely nothing wrong. You just talked yourself into it. Good for you. You want a cookie? Because you should feel like an idiot. Because you deserve this because you talked yourself into it at that point. I gave this a 3 chili peppers on the spice rating. The first time, we don't actually see the first time. We get it revealed in moments. So while we're getting these multiple coitus interruptuses, we're getting these revelations of that first time. So no, we're not getting a lot of sex on page, but we're getting sex on page in revelations of previous encounters. And it was really cool the way she did that. I did enjoy that aspect. And then, of course, when we do finally have that big moment where we actually get it, I was really sweet the way that Kendall Ryan wrote Justin to this scene. Not so much Elise, but Justin's character during this redo scene. I really enjoyed that. I thought that was very sweet, very on point, and very unlike Justin in the character we've experienced. So it was another side of Justin that we got to see, which made that self-fulfilling prophecy at the very end just piss me off even more because I was like, I saw this, so you're capable. Why are you still doing this? That's fucking annoying. But yeah, I do plan on continuing with this series. I did have a good time with it. And I do like a good hockey romance. And again, this was 3 stars. The next book I completed was this guy. This is Empire Storms by Sarah J. Maas. This is the 5th installment to the Throne of Glass series. I'm reading this for the SJM read-along hosted by Jen over the Book Refuge. I will link the SJM read-along announcement video down below. And what we were doing is reading all of Sarah J. Maas's published works in publication order. And August installment was this guy. So many moving pieces in this. So many fucking moving pieces. Oh my God. So much stuff. And I actually got to be part of the live show. I had to come in late, but I got to be part of the live show for this. So I will link that down below as well. I had a great time with this. This was 5 stars. There was no doubt. I got introduced. I got to learn more about some specific characters, aka Lorcan. I got my scene, guys. I got it. I got my super sexy fun times. So much stuff happened in this book. Like, I can't go into too much of this because you have 4 other books prior that are building up to this, and you do need all 4 of those books to build the story that we have here. So many moving pieces, so many new faces, so many returning faces. Just, it was excellent. But the sex in this book racked up. I mean, there was a lot more super sexy fun times in this book compared to any other installment in the series. So I really, really enjoyed that. The one concept that I have seen in Sarah J. Maas, and it's really shown in this book, I feel like the most, is she tends to write her female characters. She's got badass female characters. We've got a lead becoming a badass. We've got Aelin, who's already a badass. Lysandra's becoming even more of a badass. Manon is the baddest of the badasses. Manon just rocked this book for me. I just fucking loved her in this. It was great. But she writes her female characters so strong. And I think that's fantastic. I love this. I love this. But Sarah also writes really strong male characters. I mean, these guys, Rowan, fucking awesome. Gavriel, Fenris, Lorcan. Lorcan's a dick, but God, he's awesome. Like, he has this death power that's fucking dope as shit. It is so freaking cool. And Dorian in this book, where did you come from? Yeah. If this was the Dorian that I got in Throne of Glass, I would have been Team Dorian, not Team Chaol. Which, by the way, Chaol doesn't even appear in this. It did not go unnoticed. I know he's in the doghouse, but I want to know where he's at. So that I did not overlook that. Thank you. But she writes her female characters so strong that, like, they don't need the guys. They're like, no, fuck you. I know you can help me, but I don't want your help. I'm not going to do it. And Aelin does this a lot. She doesn't really communicate with her team a lot. So there's a lot of really cool revelations, which makes for really good drama in the books. But she's got these really strong male characters. And I'm like, why are you kind of overshadowing them a little bit? Like, bring them to the forefront. I'm cool with, don't overshadow them a little bit. Like, I don't want to say she's cuckolding them in power stances, but it feels like it kind of is, because they come off, when we meet Rowan, he is a badass. And then as it falls back, as they become more of a joined unit, it's like he's retreating a little bit. And I don't know if she's writing this because she wants her girls to shine and she wants the guys, she's writing the characters to be letting their women shine, or if she's just writing it because I don't know what the scope is. And I'm hoping that will get fleshed out a little bit, because she's got badass men and I want her to rock them too, because she rocks her girls so well. I want her to rock her guys as well. Not that I don't like the girls rocking, because I love these books. These books are fucking phenomenal. And Sarah J. Maas, just everything I read, I kick myself because why did I wait so long to fucking read her books? I have no idea. So, but yes, 5 stars. And I did do a whole vlog of my reading experience with this book, and I will link it down below for you guys as well, so you can see some of my reactions to some of the points in this book. There was a lot of them, so I hope you enjoy that. It'll be linked in the down box below. And the last book I completed this month was this guy. This is Sexy by JA Huss. This is a standalone. It's an exotic male dancer romance. Hate to love. There's suicide of a parent off page. We have a workplace romance. We have some dubious consent. And I don't know if this is a real thing, but I'm coining it as the Daisy technique. There's a lot of, does he like me? Likes me not. Likes me not. Daisy technique. We pull the petals off. There's a lot of it in this book. We follow Fletcher Novak and Tiffany Preston, or Tiffy, as she's called in the book. Fletcher is a stripper in a male entertainment show, kind of similar to a Magic Mike show. And Tiffy is the daughter of the owner of the hotel who manages this Mountain Men show, is what it's called, the Mountain Men show. Tiffy believes that Fletcher is abusing his position and using his status as the lead of the show to basically collect a bunch of one-night stands and hurt a lot of girls. They're all consensual, but she's just not a fan of his dickish behavior in her mind. Fletch, so to try to circumvent this, she places herself in the audience, and Fletch notices her and makes her one of his ladies on the stage, and goes up to her room after the show, after being consensually told what her room number was, goes up to her room after the show, and he finds out that it's a huge setup to basically fire him. But nothing has really happened that's not consensual, that's illegal, that's not in his contract. So Tiffy is put on the spot and kind of has to think quick on her feet. So the next day she goes up to his room to try to discuss things, and we get the romance that's about to ensue, and it's pretty fun. It's a good time. I gave this book 3 stars. What works in this book? The sex scenes. The sex scenes are fantastic. These things are great. They are mostly during these training sessions, because what we find out about Fletch is that he is a matchmaker, and he finds out that Tiffy really wants to impress her boss of Cole. So he tells her, I'll make a deal. You let me keep my job and stop trying to hound me, and I'll teach you to be sexy. So these sex scenes are definitely his teaching scenes of how to be sexy. And it's really cute, really coy. I definitely enjoyed them. I really like the original premise that she sleeps with him, and then she has to figure out how to avoid this. So they make this deal. I like this premise of this book. And I really liked the big twist at the end when we find out really who Fletcher is, because all we really know is that he's this male exotic dancer who does matchmaking on the side and doesn't give the whole truth. He gives partial truths, but are the truths really true? And I say this because he makes a point to say, I'm not lying to these girls. They are special. I don't tell them just what they want to hear. I tell them, I think you're pretty. You're pretty. I want to sleep with you. I sleep with you. I want to do this to you. Doesn't mean I want to do it again. So he's very forthcoming with what they want to hear, but it's because he wants to get what he wants, but he doesn't necessarily not believe it. He's not lying to them. If he thinks they're attractive, he tells them they're attractive. But not because he wants to get to know them more, if that makes any sense. So it's a lot of double entendre words in this book. And what didn't work about this for me was we get some of Tiffy's backstory. It was very reminiscent of Pretty Woman, about her mother. And then we have this ending Magic Mike story reveal, which kind of came out of left field. I was like, oh, okay, that's a thing now. Cool. The Daisy technique, like I said, does he like me? He likes me not. He likes me. He likes me not. That was really cute in the beginning during this training stage. But after a while, it started to kind of muddle the waters. Even when I was reading this book, I was wondering, does he actually have it? Like, are they falling for each other? Or is he still in teaching mode? Because he's trying to teach her to be sexy. So she's doing all of these things, but his reactions are like, damn, she's so hot the way she is now. But this guy likes her a different way, so I have to turn her this way, but she's still hot. Like, there was a lot of muddling in these teaching scenes. The sex part of it was great, but the verbiage that was used, it was definitely confusing. So it worked, but it didn't work. It didn't work because I didn't like being confused, but it worked because I felt like that's exactly what Tiffy was feeling. She was fucking confused because she felt like he was talking out of both sides of his mouth. He felt like she was talking out of both sides of her mouth. So it definitely was a really weird element for this book, but it worked, but it didn't work. For some people, it might work. For me, it kind of made me feel weird. There was an aspect of this in the book during some of his during Fletch's internal monologues where he doesn't speak too kindly of women who go to strip clubs, who watch male dance shows. And I don't, but see, that's where the double entendre is. Like, he is speaking as if he's like in character, like he was in character the entire book. And then at the end of the book, we find out who he really is. And we're like, what? So you were even in character when you didn't have to be in character? What the fuck, man? It was very odd. But there was some derogatory language used to just women going and enjoying a male strip club. So that was kind of irritating to me. Just saying. Kind of irritating. And there was what I would consider gaslighting in this, but they were all used during the training montages, the sexy training sessions. And so was it gaslighting? Was it? Or was it not? You know, because he's saying, Tiffy, you want me. I know you do. You want me. Is he talking her into it? Because she does want him. We know from her internal monologues she wants him. But he's blatantly telling her and she's like, okay, now I'm going to do it. So is it gaslighting that he's calling her out on her internal monologue shit and making her admit with how she feels? Or is he actually convincing her to do this in her own guise? Like I said, a lot of muddled conversations, but it all clears up at the end of the book with a nice HEA. So it all gets clear at the end. So we do have that. And the sex scenes they're doing sexy training sessions. There was some graphic language, some dominant training language, which I kind of enjoyed. And I gave it 2 chili peppers because we don't have a lot of multiple locations. We have a lot of starts in multiple locations and then they come back. So yeah, that's what I read this month, guys. This is a long one. So I'm going to quickly draw these and we're going to get going so I can figure out my September TBR. All right. Yeah. Read a book that was turned into a film. That won't be hard. And then I'm going to draw out of my husband's jar because I didn't actually complete my TBR. So here we go. Start a series your husband helped you finish. I swear he has multiples of these and then here too. All right, that's what I got for you guys today. This was a long one. I hope you stuck through it with me. I had some good stuff this month. I had some good stuff. So I will see you guys all soon with another video. Bye.